Hey, welcome to The Explainer. So today we're digging into a really powerful idea, a hidden rule that basically governs our world. It helps explain why systems that seem totally stable can just suddenly collapse. Honestly, it's a concept that might completely change how you think about the limits of, well, reality itself.
So let's start with the big question, right? Why do things that seem perfectly fine one day, a booming economy, a stable ecosystem, you name it, why do they suddenly fall apart? Well, it turns out there might be a hidden rule that governs all of it.
To really get to the bottom of that, here's how we're going to break it down. First up, we'll define this cool idea. Then we'll get into its core rules. After that, we'll see it in action in the real world. And finally, we'll check out how it actually gives us a guide for building a better future.
All right, let's dive right in. We're starting with a Dutch term, and it's actually a mashup of two words. Realimiteit, which means reality, and limiet, which means limit. You put them together and you get Realimiteit.
So, in a nutshell, Realimiteit is this idea that every single system, doesn't matter if it's a car engine or the entire global economy, it has a safe operating space. It can only really function within a very specific set of boundaries. You push it too far, and things start to break down.
And at the very heart of this whole idea is one simple but incredibly powerful formula. It looks super basic, but this little equation describes a fundamental tension that exists inside literally every system you can think of.
Okay, so let's quickly break down what these letters actually mean. M stands for mass. That's the physical scale, the resources a system is using. Think of it as the how much. Then you've got I for information. This is the knowledge, the complexity, the innovation inside the system. That's the how smart. And finally, R is Realimiteit. That's the absolute limit, the ceiling that the combination of mass and information just cannot go past if the system wants to stay functional.
So now that we have the basic formula, let's look at the fundamental principles. This is where it all builds into a really powerful framework for understanding our world.
This whole theory really just rests on three universal rules, and they follow a pretty clear progression. First, every reality is bounded, period. It has limits. Second, to function inside those limits, a system has to find a balance between its physical size and its intelligence. And third, and this is the big one, if that balance is lost and the limits are breached, the system inevitably, eventually, begins to collapse.
This quote from the source material just says it all, doesn't it? Reality isn't infinite. It's conditional. It can only exist within limits.
Okay, so here's the crucial part. This isn't just some abstract theory, right? We can actually use this lens to diagnose the pressures on the critical systems we rely on every single day.
Now, this is what's so fascinating. Check out how this one framework can be applied to 4 totally different areas. Let's just take ecology for a second. The limit, R, is our planet's natural boundaries. The mass, or M, is our resource extraction. And information, I, is our conservation science. When our extraction outpaces our scientific understanding and solutions, well, the system collapses. And as you can see right here, the exact same pattern of limit, mass, and information plays out in our economy, in our technology, and even in our social fabric.
This really gets to the heart of the solution. See, to avoid collapse, it's not enough for information to just keep up with mass. If we want to create a truly sustainable system, our ability to be smarter, to be more efficient, and more innovative actually needs to outweigh our impulse to just get bigger and consume more.
But here's the optimistic twist, and I love this part. This isn't just a theory about doom and gloom and collapse. It's actually a roadmap for how we can build a better, more resilient future by turning these limits into a catalyst for progress.
So why does this matter so much? Well, first, it clearly defines that safe operating space, like climate thresholds that we absolutely have to respect. Second, it totally redefines what real progress is. It's not just about using more resources or mass. It's about increasing information. It's about getting smarter. And finally, it acts as a crucial early warning system, letting us know when we're getting dangerously close to a limit. And listen, this might be the single most important takeaway of this whole thing. We are not trapped by our current limits. We can actually expand our reality, our war, but there's only one way to do it, through information. By investing in knowledge, in innovation, we literally create more room for ourselves to operate safely.
So let's bring this all home. Now that we have the framework, how do we actually apply these principles to start building more durable, more functional systems?
The source material suggests 3 really concrete actions. In policy, we can actually write these limits into our laws, things like carbon budgets or debt ceilings.
In design, we can engineer our cities and our supply chains to respect these limits from the ground up. And in education, we can teach this as a core way of thinking about the world. I mean, ultimately, it's all about making our limits visible, making them intentional, and making them part of our shared understanding.
And this brings us to the core philosophical point, which is just so powerful. We have agency. Through our wisdom, our science, our innovation, we have the incredible power to reshape and expand our own boundaries. But what we can't do is pretend they don't exist. We can't just abolish them.
And that leaves us with one final and I think crucial question. Knowing that our reality is defined by limits, and knowing that we have the power to intelligently reshape them, well, the choice is ours. What boundaries in our environment, in our economy, in our societies are we going to focus on expanding next through wisdom and innovation? That's really the challenge this powerful idea leaves us with.